In this video, we're talking about prostitution, and more specifically, some of the defenses, some of the outcomes, and some of the evidence that is needed in order to convict somebody of prostitution. In other videos, I've spoken about what constitutes prostitution, whether it's sexual conduct or what type of interaction actually constitutes prostitution. In another video, we talked about the penalties. Today, we're going to talk about some of the defenses. So first and foremost, let's take a quick look at the statute. It is knowingly engaging in prostitution. You want to break those up, and so I have different boxes around them. You want to break those up and see if you can disprove each one of those. These are called elements. They're elements of an offense, and they're all required. They're all necessary in order to obtain a conviction. So if you can break that chain, or if you can show that one of these is not applicable or cannot be proven beyond a reasonable doubt, they can't convict you of prostitution. So let's break them down. I'll give you a quick example of all three of them. First and foremost, it has to be done knowingly. You have to knowingly be engaging in prostitution. If you're somebody who was engaging in it, but you had no idea that there was some sort of a fee arrangement where there was no exchange of anything of value, any valuable consideration, you just didn't know it. You thought a friend was setting you up. You thought this was a fetish or something like that somebody else had. You just didn't really think that it was engaged. It was actually prostitution. If you're not aware of that arrangement, then you can't be said to have knowingly engaged in prostitution. You weren't actually promulgating or putting forward the fee arrangement, and so it's not knowing. If you can break that, it's going to dismiss the charge. They can't move forward with it against you because you haven't done it knowingly. It's part of what's called a mens rea in criminal law. It's your mental state. If you didn't know about it, you didn't know that this was prostitution, they can't convict you of it. Similarly, what is actually engaging? So did you take specific acts in furtherance of the prostitution? Was there actual conduct that you did or somebody did on your behalf, or something was going on where you were taking furtherance, you were taking an act in furtherance of committing the offense? Sometimes that doesn't happen. Sometimes people will be exploring the idea of it. Some people won't actually have agreed to engage in prostitution or offered to. They wouldn't actually have done that. They're just kind of poking around the topic. They're thinking about it. They get cold feet before it ever actually happens. And so if you think of it sort of as a teeter-totter, is somebody walking over that? Does it tip the scale over into actually engaging into it? If it doesn't, then it's really hard to say that there was an act. There was no act in furtherance. There was no engagement. And if you can beat this charge or beat this element of the offense, there was no act. There was no act in furtherance. And so it can be argued in many cases that there was no actual engagement in it or offering or an agreement to. It's going to depend on the facts of your case. In some situations, it's very clear that there was engagement, but in many cases, it's not as clear as they might want you to believe. You can make good arguments there as well. And finally, was it actually prostitution? So I talked about this in a different video about the definitions of prostitution. What is actually considered prostitution? What actual conduct between two people falls within the purview? If it just feels like prostitution, but it doesn't meet those specific definitions, it's not prostitution. The law it's not an umbrella that just covers anything that might be sexual in nature. It's got to fit within those specific definitions. If it doesn't, then it's not prostitution. So if you knowingly engage in something that's not prostitution, you can't be convicted of prostitution. If you didn't know you were engaging in prostitution, then you can't be convicted of prostitution. There's a number of ways you can beat the charge just by attacking and kind of ripping apart the statute. You can see here it's pretty generic and it's pretty vague, but you can make some good arguments to it. A big defense, this is actually written into the statute. So if you are a victim of sexual trafficking, if you've been sort of abused, you're considered to be involved in sexual trafficking, it's going to be a total defense to prostitution. You can assert this as an affirmative defense, which means it's your burden to show that to the court, to the jury, that you were engaged in this, but you were a victim of sexual trafficking. If that's your situation, it's going to be a very good defense to this. All right, a big concern that most people have when we're talking about goals, one, of course, is going to be jail time. In a different video, I talked about it. First offense prostitution, it's 15 days of jail. It's mandatory. You have to go to jail for the first offense. It's kind of ridiculous, but you do. It's written into the statute. So people are very concerned about that. They don't want to go to jail, and who can blame them? The other thing that they're concerned about is their record, their reputation what are the professional impacts going to be? How is this going to impact their future? What if somebody does a background check and they see a conviction for prostitution on there? So those are two big goals. We want to make sure that both of those things are dealt with. One, somebody staying out of jail, and two, this is not going to be following them around forever. How can we get that so their record is clean and nobody can see it? There's some ways that we can do that. First and foremost, what we see sometimes in some jurisdictions, not all jurisdictions, is what's called diversion, meaning we can offer a resolution to the prosecutor's office to say, look, we want to make this go away. You want to make this go away. How can we do that? Let's negotiate a deal. We can say our client or the individual who's been charged with prostitution will do something. We'll take some classes. We'll go to an adult responsibility class. We'll take anything that they want you to do. You go and you do this program. In exchange for completing that, they get something out of it. So they get some money. They get to feel good about themselves because you went to a class. In exchange for doing that, we want something else. We want the charge dismissed. So sometimes they will offer that. And if that happens, it meets these two goals. There's no jail and it doesn't stay on your record. The other things that we can do is reduce it down from what's called prostitution to solicitation of prostitution. So there's a way that you can actually bump this charge out of the statute, which I discussed in another video. So you can say that it's not actually prostitution. It's something that kind of resembles prostitution, but because it's not within the purview of that statute, that mandatory jail doesn't come into play. And so then you can come back and file what's called a motion to set aside a conviction, so you can keep somebody out of jail and you can come back and clear the record up as best you can. That's another way to reach those goals. So a lot of this is going to apply to the specifics of your case, which is why I would encourage you to seek legal counsel. The penalties are severe. It's not something you want to gloss over and just walk into court and handle on your own. The other thing that we want to look for, okay, when I'm talking about evidence, when we go through the process, in order to reach these goals, we have to be aggressive with the courts, with the prosecutor's office. And so some of the things we're looking for, of course, police reports. What's important in prostitution cases are video and audio recordings. So did the police set this up? Were they working with an informant? Were they working with an undercover officer? What kind of video do they have? What kind of audio recordings do they have? Did they preserve it? Is there a clear chain of custody? Is identification very clear? Can they actually identify our client, or is it blurry? Is it obscured by plants or whatever they're hiding it behind? There's a lot of ways that this can be revealing and show they may think they have an open and shut case, but in reality they don't. Other things we're looking for, phone and text records. So a lot of the times this can add context to the situation. So when I was talking about another defense, did this person actually engage in this stuff, or was this person kind of just probing, just kind of poking around with the idea of it? And a lot of the times, phone calls, audio recordings from the phone calls, text messages, we've had cases where an individual will kind of be just checking around, but then they'll pull out of it. I can't do it. It's not, this is not right. I feel uncomfortable about it. So they didn't actually engage in anything. And so you can use that to provide context. So you want to make sure that if you're being charged, you have those records preserved. And then finally, we want to look at police personnel files. We want to always do that. Want to make sure that we know what police were involved, whether they've been reprimanded, whether they've ever been in trouble before. So we have a full understanding of the whole situation. So again, if you've been charged with prostitution, these are just a quick overview of some of the offenses. We can really dive into it. Make sure that you're not getting any of those penalties. Make sure we can reach your goals, keep you out of jail, keep your record clean, keep your reputation intact. Give us a call, okay? We offer free case evaluations, meaning come on in. We'll sit down, we'll talk about the specifics of your case, make sure you have a good plan for moving forward. Give us a call. Thanks for watching.